Hello everybody. I have an interesting deck for you today. This is more of kind of like a fun deck. I don't know if it's so fun for the opponent exactly, but yeah, essentially the idea behind this deck is that we're going to be summoning Monk, and we're just going to try and kill our own Monk so that we can keep summoning it again and again. Um so basically, that's the idea of the deck, and that's why we run cards like Final Flourish. But we can sacrifice them early on because that's more of like a late game thing. Another thing we're running is Growing Bog-dweller. That's another important combo piece for this deck because a Bog-dweller can kill your own ally. Now, the reason we're not doing something like returning Monk to the hand is because Monk actually has Steadfast. So you can't actually return it to your own hand, which is probably for the best because otherwise that would be a little too strong in my opinion. So our opponent goes ahead and has this Eternal Troll Wrath of the Forest combo, which is quite nice. Every time we kill the troll, he's going to draw a card off of Wrath of the Forest. So I decide to go ahead and try and reduce the durability on Wrath of the Forest before taking out the troll because that's the only way we can really do stuff. Our opponent does something kind of clever there, kills his own troll with a counterattack damage, and of course the troll comes back to life, and that lets our opponent draw a card, which I thought was pretty clever there. We definitely have to stop that from happening again and again, so that's why I just go ahead and play the Monk. Now, it's okay to play Monk early game like this. Actually, maybe preferable because we want Monk in the graveyard as well. Because another part of this deck is summoning Monk again and again, and that means even after our opponent, gets rid of the first one. So I'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, in terms of Monk things that stop Monk, our opponent used Stun Turret there to remove the ability on Monk so that he could attack and draw cards, which was pretty nice on his part. We're just going to go ahead and try and take off the Spirit Shuriken durability and use Devoted Knight and Felinian Archway to set up for a combo that I mentioned a little bit earlier. Essentially, with 9 lives, we can pick up a Felinian card from the graveyard. And Monk is a Felinian card in the graveyard when you have Felinian Archway out. So 9 lives in Felinian Archway lets us grab a Monk directly from the graveyard every single turn. So this is the combo that lets this become an infinite Monk combo. You get the Archway, you get the 9 lives, and then every turn you're adding a Monk from the graveyard to the hand. And what's left is we need to figure out how to get Monk in the graveyard, and that's where the Bog-dweller comes in. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to get rid of that troll that is getting pretty annoying, so we just go for the kill on that one. We're just going to 9 lives back the Scout, probably going to sacrifice it. But now we've got it set up. We've got the Bog-dweller plus the Monk, and I think our opponent here probably should have tried and killed the Bog-dweller, because by killing the Monk, our opponent has unwittingly actually set up our combo for us by allowing us to have a Bog-dweller out, but also have the Monk engrave. Now, I'm not actually sure if we do the Monk this turn. I think we do. But we're just going to Bog-dweller the Tainted Oracle, which is another great combo that happens in this deck, is being able to... Okay, so we do it. We summon the Monk. So yeah, now we've got the combo set up. Now there is one remaining issue, and that's the fact that Monk has Shroud. So if you try to Bog-dweller your Monk, it's going to stop it because of the fact that it has Shroud, and that cancels the first ability played on top of it. So actually, our opponent helps us out. Our opponent uses Spirit Shuriken to hit the Monk. That actually helps us a ton because now we can Bog-dweller our own card. So yeah, I guess our opponent helped us in that case. So now we can just 9 lives our Monk again and summon our Monk. So yeah, our opponent definitely should have left Shroud on the Monk so that our Monk couldn't be killed, but I'm not going to complain too hard about that. Anyway, we do have a way to remove our own Shroud that is quite efficient. Arthyle's Cloak is a armor that removes Shroud from your allies at the start of your turn. So that's what we're going to try and summon quickly so that we can set up this infinite combo. Here, I kind of... I knew that what was face down was probably going to be Death Traps, just because it does counter Monk, so I was fully expecting that, and happy that that was actually the case. So yeah, I decided not to get rid of the Shroud of Monk there. I probably should have Bog-dweller the Monk's Shroud there. That would have been pretty smart. Or maybe did I Bog-dweller? Yeah, yeah. I should have done that because it's important to get rid of our own Shroud actually. I think that's gonna bite me and then my next turn there a little bit. But yeah, we're gonna be able to basically okay. Our opponent just goes for drawing cards, so our opponent doesn't even have a board yet. I think our opponent might have wanted to take off our Wizent staff there, just because it's really important for this deck to keep drawing cards, and so we definitely need to keep drawing cards. And the reason is this deck is so combo heavy. We like to go really high in resources. I mean, we're on 14 resources, which is pretty insane for most decks. I think for most decks this would be excessive. But for this style of deck and against this matchup where we're going against a tower deck that has 70 cards, going high in resources is actually okay and desirable because otherwise we're not going to keep up with our opponent's sacrifices. Our opponent's able to kill our Bog-dweller, which is really unfortunate, but luckily because of Arthyle's Cloak, you'll notice that our monk lost Shroud, so that is really, really important there, to use the Cloak to remove Shroud from our own monk. Now we can go ahead and once you have the combo set up, I mean, you can just go face and you're totally fine. So I'm going to Final Flourish to kill my own monk. 9 lives the monk back, summon the monk, and now my opponent can't attack, so we can just go face. And so this is kind of like an every turn, even better than stealth because it dodges stealth counters. We just can't be attacked at all. So yeah, our opponent can really not do much. Not to mention the fact that it's reducing all ability damage by 1, so even Braggart there is really doing nothing. So once we've got the combo set up, and admittedly it took a long time to get the combo set up, Archway, 9 lives, Cloak, Monk, and Dweller is, a 5-card combo. But once you have it set up, you win the game, essentially. There's very little your opponent can do outside of non-targeting removal or, maybe ground shift or something that counters Monk specifically to stop you. For the next game, we're going to be playing against Vic, and basically this is just an interesting replay, so I thought we'd give it a watch. I believe I lose this one, but it's still a fun replay to watch because I think it goes to show how to counter Monk really well. But anyway, this is the Aramia version of the deck where we run stuff like Archway to bring that out with Aramia's ability. So that's the whole idea behind this deck, where using Aramia to seek out the Archway and therefore not have to summon it saves us some tempo there. We're just going to ramp because I think it's really important for this deck to have resources. And I know that with my Tainted Oracle, I have a good chance of being able to draw cards, so I'm not worried too much about cards right now. So I decided to keep my Shadow Bolts because this is Felinians, and against Felinians, I do really want to have the ability at least to basically counteract their board a little. So we go ahead and Shadow Bolt their Wolf Shredder, then we go face with the Monk. So I probably should have kept the Tainted Oracle just before more draw. I really do regret that later, I think, but for now, the 9 lives is okay because it's just going to set up in case we do ever want to chain monks. I go to kill the Felix because it's really important against Felinians to just kill their Felix. I didn't summon Scout because of Predator, which would have killed the Scout anyway, so that's why I didn't summon the Scout there. And I crashed the Monk just because it was going to die anyway, so might as well deal some damage to some of those Felinian guys. So we got the Archway there, so that's really useful. So I decide to go ahead and... I actually seek out the Archway with Aramia's ability. I probably should have summoned the Monk and a Scout there. But it's not going to matter, actually. Actually, I shouldn't have, just because. So I really like this play that my opponent does. My opponent uses Hunter's Gambit to remove the Shroud. Therefore, it's going to go to the graveyard, allowing Victor to use its ability to return the Hunter's Gambit back to the hand. So it is a 6-resource play, but that's a really effective way to get rid of Monk. the Hunter's Gambit Vic play. So I really like that my opponent did that and had that play. So even though we're able to set up our loop here with Felinian Archway and 9 lives, our opponent has a monk counter, and I thought this was a pretty cool and worth watching. So yeah, it's a really cool combo to use the Hunter's Gambit to get rid of the monk with Victor. Now that does mean that my opponent no longer has any more shadow energy, so I'm pretty safe now to go ahead and 9 lives the monk, summon the monk, and then the Bog-dweller. So yeah, now we're in pretty good shape, just because of the fact that my opponent is now out of shadow energy. But in response, my opponent goes ahead and plays a bunch of Felinians, which, lucky for us, did not hit that Pride Mender there. And so yeah, we're in a good spot. Then again, I do think that I need to get rid of the Scout because I know there's a Felix in the grave. So if we don't get rid of the Scout, our opponent can Felix. And now we're just going to go ahead and Shadow Bolt that Scout there. I just go ahead and remove the Shroud of Monk because it's usually important to remove Shroud so that we can set up to summon another Monk next turn. Now, sadly, I think we're going to lose this Bog-dweller, which is going to be quite unfortunate. Yeah, essentially, we're really low health, so that is another concern there. Luckily, we did get the Final Flourish, so actually, that's quite nice. I should have saved this Transporting Golem, but hindsight is 2020. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and Final Flourish the Felix. Felix is another must-kill against Felinians because Felix can seek another Felix. And then we summon our Monk again. So now we're in a pretty good spot with Monk and Transporting Golem, putting in a lot of heavy work there. Our opponent's going to summon the Lightning Bringer, and that makes me really concerned, just because of the fact that with Lightning Bringer, it can dodge even if we manage to get rid of our own Monk. I don't know, it was a tough decision. I decided to Supernova there, which sadly kills our own Monk and Transporting Golem. I didn't have any other way to kill the Monk, so that's why I did that. I think I had to, otherwise we would have lost there. So now on 3 health, though, we kind of have to summon the Monk, and yeah, that's that. So now with our opponent having a stealth ally, we need to find a way to kill our Monk, but so we're just going to draw a bunch, and actually we crash into the Felix just to kill our own Monk so that we can summon a Monk again. So yeah, I guess that is how we're going to handle that. And this play I think is really cool on our opponent's part. Our opponent is going to go ahead and use Perfect Shot to remove the Shroud. Gonna pick back up Perfect Shot with Vic. And of course, you can't actually kill the Monk normally, but my opponent stacks Lightning Bringer, which I thought was really cool, with another Felinian that mills the top of the deck to basically kill the Monk there and win the game. That one was an uphill battle anyway, though. I don't know. We probably would have run out of ways to cycle the Monk. Anyway, here's the deck that I ran, and basically I'm using Zhanna. Now, Zhanna uses basically, we're using a standard pretty much shell. So we're running the Titles, which kills our own Monk, and the Devoted Knights and the Tainted Oracles. I think these work really well as a package, especially with the Bog-dweller, because they like being killed. Scout is nice because we can stack the deck with a Felinian from the grave, so we can stack the deck with Monk and then draw it with something like Wizent Staff. So that's a nice combo there. So that's why we run the Scout. Probably something we could drop, but I do like it also just as a 2-drop sometimes against an aggressive deck where we really need to slow them down at least a little bit. Yeah, so that's that. For Bog-dweller, this is a key card in the deck because it sets up our late game combo with the Monks. 4 Monks because we need to see Monk, so it does brick sometimes, but actually I do like multiple copies because it's nice to have spares in the graveyard in case you can't kill your Monk that turn. For Final Flourish, this is actually a really good card. I really like seeing this card almost always late game, where it just lets you kill your own monk, and for only 1 cost, that's really good. Plus, dealing 4 damage to something is pretty sweet. For 9 lives, this is a key component in the deck to recycle the monks. Tidal, Glass Chalice, and Archway, pretty much necessary for draw power and our ultimate combo for Wizent Staff. And then finally, Arthyle's Cloak, which this is just such a funny thing to me that this card finally saw some play as a way to remove your own Shroud. So when this card was being released, like, I guess, so the idea behind this card was that it was purposely made bad. Sometimes in development, you make like cards that aren't very good just because people were worried about 2 things. The first thing people were worried about is that this effect, giving 2 friendly allies Shroud, would be really strong because giving anything Shroud is really, really good, especially if you can Shroud like a fatty. Now, I don't think that actually panned out because I think there's enough ways to get rid of Shroud that 2 Shadow Energy and 5 cost to give something Shroud is not even that good. And then this passive here is just killer, where at the start of each of your turns, all of your allies lose Shroud. I think that was just an unnecessary passive to give this card because it's already not good even without that, and that just basically killed the card. So that's why this card just never saw any play at all. I think it's just an awful card. And, it's okay to have some bad cards in a set, though. I think it maybe teaches some concepts about how Shroud maybe was maybe not as good as people thought it was, at least in terms of giving things Shroud. And now, of course, we have the Baptism by Fire that gives Shroud. And so I think Cloak's ability here is not good, but it's so funny that because of the effect that removes Shroud, it's actually really good in this deck because of the fact that you can remove Monk's Shroud and therefore recycle it. So I was really happy to finally find a usage for Arthyle's Cloak. Anyway, that's the deck, so let me know what you think about this deck. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.